Welcome to the Security Advisory Open Forum webinar. This is a monthly chance to jump in, and we want to answer your questions. So if you have any questions about security, about the issues that are arising today, let us know in the chat, and our team, we can answer them here, or we'll definitely get back to you later on. So a couple things. Quest Security Advisory Forum is your monthly briefing on latest threats, breaking vulnerabilities, and important vendor announcements. We also want this to be an opportunity to get your questions answered, like I mentioned. If you have questions, again, please ask them in the chat. Today, we're joined by Quest VP of Sales and Partnerships, Adam Burke, and Quest CTO, Mike Dillon, to discuss security in real-world scenarios. For those who did register and already ask questions, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. We're going to jump right into those questions. Hit the ground running. Adam and Mike, in this very modern world, could we... Hey, what's going on? In this very
no time for pleasantries.
Our small
Get after it. No time for pleasantries.
Boom, right into
no time. Mike, you're doing well. Adam, good, great. Let's get into it. In this very modern world, could we really fully depend on AI technology to protect our data against phishing and scams?
It'll probably help you. So the AI is a big thing. So that's a big, right? Because a lot of people are banking on AI to help and help us keep. And people are making improvements. I see it from a technology platform all day long with new enhancements. People probably don't realize all the features that are out there, especially from some of the major vendors like you got your Microsoft and your CrowdStrike and those guys. They're adding features all day long with AI. So I think that's a great thing. And then on the other side of the continuum, from a threat perspective, people are loading up AI tools that are probably opening up other security threats. And so how does IT keep up with, from both ends, AI helping them and AI, lack of better terms, not helping them from a security perspective. So is it going to help? Yeah. Is it going to open up other threats we have to worry about? Yes. Do you have to get into knowing AI within your security platform? Yes. You're going to have to keep up with how these tools are working, how they could do. So you're in the Microsoft world, when we're deep into the Microsoft with the whole security perspective, things like Copilot, understanding what an agent is, what signals are, how to, what to look for, setting up rules, policies. I mean, it's just the way it is. And by the way, knowing what kind of comes with what you purchase from Microsoft, we have a lot of people. Matter of fact, we got a program that we kicked off the first part of the year where we're getting up on calls with customers, and it's open to anybody that's up on the call. Just let us know if you want us to have a call with you. But talking about the level of Microsoft or agents or software that you have, that could apply to obviously Microsoft. It applies to even tools like CrowdStrike. I mean, there's just a lot of capabilities, email filtering tools like Proofpoint. So there are a lot of capabilities that people probably don't get into. And we go through those on a daily basis. We set up with our customers to go through them, maybe with our customer platforms and with their policies on a weekly, monthly basis. But you got to keep up with the configuration. You got to keep up with the AI capabilities of it. You got to know what to tweak. And we had some questions that came up, I think, earlier, Paul, about, probably having some governance around some of these things too with AI. So hopefully that answers the question. If somebody's got something else they want to expand on, they can always send us a chat there too. But you're going to have to deal with AI on both ends to help you, and probably at times it's probably not feeling like it's helping you. Does that help, Paul?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I mean, it's good for me. I hope it's helpful for everybody else too. I don't know. I can only speak for myself here. If it's helpful, let us know in the chat. Adam, do you have anything to follow up with, or you want me to jump to the next question?
No, it's a tool like anything else. When we saw the machine learning aspect of things early days, it can help, and it can also hurt. So just like Mike said, the awareness of it and the awareness of the capabilities is really what you got to, stay up to date with. So, but I think the question specifically was, can you ever fully rely on it? It's software. So if you want to, I have friends who fully rely on automating their entire house with software. And if you want to trust your security and the ability to lock your front door to a software device, that's a decision you can make. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah, I do see on that point, I do see AI giving you a lot of recommendations, or somebody's going to have to make some decisions. So you're going to have to set up policies and make a decision. You may have the tool make that decision or help you make that decision, but you're going to have to think of like a decision. There's AI recommendations until we're all bleeding in the eyes here as far as recommendations go. So, but decisions are going to have to be talked about. Policies are going to have to be discussed, and governance overall. So, good stuff.
Our next question is top 365 tenant attacks targeting end users, specifically non-interactive attacks. So I think they just want to know more information about that. What are your thoughts about that?
So yeah, there are a lot of so I'm thinking somebody's just trying to say here, other than just having somebody's user ID password or something. But there are a lot of threats here that come in from what the attackers want to exploit. So there's a lot of things still with phishing users. What they are trying to get to now is kind of lay out malicious applications that help them steal your tokens. So that's a big deal, or steal your authentication. So it doesn't really mean that I guess your password, although there are a lot of the password tools out there that are still being used. So there's a lot of attacks coming from from those type of things. Still trying to figure out how to bypass MFA or even have MFA on. I still see a lot of people still. It's a huge number. It's probably less than 50. Probably less. Let me say this: more than 50% of people still don't have MFA enabled across the board. So is still a big gap. There's still some sort of a special thing or bypassing it for some reason. Threat actors want to figure out how to bypass to your MFA, steal your token. We put up here a little bit here too, which we sent out a message yesterday from our security advisor message just around beaming. So the idea, if you don't know what beaming is, it's pretty straightforward. It's yeah, there you go. Thank you. So this is kind of key. Again, how do you set up your basic email coming in? Email is still a big vector that people come into to be able to put out those malicious applications to do your bypassing of your MFA, to steal your tokens. It still is a major way about how people get emails. We've been going through this process, and again, to validate. A lot of people may have some of the, if you see the fourth bullet down there, SPF, DKIM, and the DMARC, those are all terms used for email security and to authenticate who you are technically. But a lot of people still don't have those all the way in. They may not be enforced. So we still have to go back and go through this process with our customers. And also the BME thought there, as you can see up on the screen, some way to kind of tell that your email has been validated, coming from some of the major vendors, such as Google, Yahoo, and so on and so forth. So anyway, email is still a big vector here. This is how they're getting in to steal your tokens, how they're getting in to bypass your like MFA. So how do you deal with that, and how do you deal with securing your email further? So, yeah, it's a big deal, and we see it. Unfortunately, we still see it, and I see it in all different industries, from gaming industries to banking to private firms, where people just aren't, halfway done here is not going to get you. There's kind of kind of our art of war thought here, halfway across the river is not going to, it's just going to cause you problems. So a lot of people are just sort of halfway across the river and they're just going to get pushed down the river. They got to get some of these things all the way across the river, and Beame and setting up this is one of those. Get this all the way across. And then also, you've got to also start talking with your teams and internally about how users are set up. So a basic question is, can a user go up and set up and deploy their own applications? So this means somebody could go up, download their own applications. It could be a SaaS application. It could be anything else. But if people are going up there doing that, if that's part of your world, that's okay. You are setting yourselves up for these threats. And so you got to discuss, hey, how's that approved? How's that workflow taking place? How do I get IT involved or your cybersecurity involved to validate applications? How do I stop it from happening? Because that's also a source that threat actors know a lot of people can download their own application still. So it's still a big problem. I see some people really trying to work on it. It's just a challenge. Security is just a never ending, you're constantly farming, you're constantly trying to improve things. And right now, people understand that a lot of people could deploy their own applications, and that sets them up for a lot of these other threats. So,
Great. And thank you very much for the Art of War reference. Appreciate it. Adam,
yeah, you're welcome.
any book references? Adam, if you want to, very cultured. Mike, very cultured.
Yeah,
Adam,
thank you.
any book references you want to make to bring it home? Any movies, Matrix, Terminator, anything you want to reference?
Nothing that could get across on a PG event. A couple of things come to mind about halfway across the river that I think Dad taught us about, but I can't go there.
Okay.
So let's move on. But I think we can move on to the next security question. Yeah.
The next question is, does Quest provide PDFs on services that are directed to a customer on behalf of the SPTSD with their contact information on it?
Oh, cool. Yeah. So this sounds like it's directly from one of our partners. So awesome. We have a lot of partners who work with us and help us with opportunities and working with clients and things like that. We do provide lots of literature, and we have some go-to-market playbooks that can have these conversations and has a lot of detail on it that can be used from their branding standpoint. So we do have a lot of resources on this, and then we also have with our partners and clients, they can use these as like training opportunities as well. So kind of like with the Beame threat around that branding, and not only getting set up for your emails to be authenticated, but having your team trained on how to see that threat coming in. We put all that material together, as well as record these types of sessions and things like that. So absolutely, yeah, good question. Thank you.
Yeah, that is great, and that's available to all partners, correct, Adam?
Yeah, all partners. If you go to our website and you jump into the partner page, that's available anytime.
Cool. Yeah. Sounds good. Next question: how are non-human and AI agents authenticated, authorized, and monitored today?
Non-AI or non-human?
Yeah, non-human and AI agents.
Non-human. Well, a lot of them are. So this probably goes back to what I was discussing earlier about how people are setting up. So how are non-human agents monitored today? Right? That's what the question is, Paul? So
yeah. How are non-human AI agents authenticated, authorized, and monitored? So it's a three-pack there.
Well, they're probably, unfortunately, they're probably not. I know that sounds pretty cynical. Sorry about that. But probably a lot of them aren't, but they can be. And this is when you get into the policies I was discussing about earlier about who is installing new applications, who's turning on new features, doing those type of things, because a lot of people can just open up some sort of AI tool and tracking it. So For instance, one of the things that we do with customers is we go out and we set up your, your browser extensions. So a lot of people don't think of this, but, set up your browser better, which a lot of people just think it's default and not have to worry about it. But you can set up, policies about what extensions can be loaded and or used from your corporate browser. Now, with that thought in mind, that means you're controlling your corporate end device. And I know, again, not trying to be cynical here, but a lot of people probably need help just getting to that point. So the concept here is that if it's a corporate device, if it's a corporate account, a corporate application, a corporate SaaS, whatever it is, that is being governed. If it's not being governed, if it's not being managed, then you're just good luck. You're in that good luck world. You're in the hope it doesn't happen to me world. There's nothing I can do about it. Screw it. I won't try to push anything, and we'll just roll the dice and see what happens, which a lot of people are in. So, but if you're trying to get out to figure out how to manage this stuff and how to see if what's being deployed, i.e. AI tools in your environment or in your system, whatever you're looking at there, you've got to be able to have some sort of a capability to control, monitor, which means look and see what people are loading, getting events, getting logs, which a lot of people still are struggling with getting logs and events from these tools. All this stuff will tell you if you've got it managed, how and what's going on. You got to set this up, and that is a grind. I'm not saying this is an easy peasy deal either. So you've got to be able to have pretty good executive management here, or senior management to help you through this process. But there is a process, and there are ways you could see that type of information. And there is ways you can see those tools if they're being loaded and what they're doing. You've got to be able to have a framework though for managing it. And if you don't, then it's going to be tough. You probably just have shadow IT all over the place, and a lot of it's probably shadow IT with AI, and you don't know where that stuff's going. You don't know what it's doing. You don't know what it's capturing. You don't know what Microsoft came out a couple of weeks ago with their threat with Copilot. If somebody enabled Copilot, what data was being seen by everybody else, and did it bypass your access control type of stuff? So yeah, dangerous tool. But you got to have a framework and a security practice here to manage that, and you got to have your team members and your management members and your ownership support you on it, or it's just going to be tough. So, but it can happen. To answer the question, yes, it can happen. You got to have a framework and some governance with it.
Okay, great.
Mike, when we're talking about managing AI assets or agents or people or non-humans, back to your point, you kind of have to have that. You have to have the ability to do that with your people first. If you don't have it figured out with your people or just your endpoints as they're managed today, if you're having trouble collecting logs from, your remote workforce, or the ability to even control what plugins they can manage with their browser. I mean, you're a white belt walking on the mat trying to deal with a black belt problem, right? I mean, that's kind of yeah. You're like walking up a highway just hoping somebody doesn't hit you, but you're probably just going to get hit. So, you're going up the freeway here and just kind of walking across and wondering if somebody's going to stop for you or not, but you're probably going to get plowed over. So it is a challenge, and but there are ways to do it, and there are ways. I mean, again, you got to kind of, am I playing here, or am I just experimenting, or am I going to go for it, right? So again, what mode is your company in? If you're going to go for it, if you're going to make it serious, then there's a lot of people that are just testing, or I'm going to look at it, or I'm sort of just, I'm doing it for myself, but, not really a corporate strategy. And, there's a lot of that stuff taking place with AI. And it's, again, not saying that it's simple, but there is, it is a good topic to have. So since a lot of people probably are on Entra, being Microsoft, we
we have a baseline. So when you look at rolling out Copilot and you're looking at those things, you really have to look at your baseline for your security. So we'll come in and do a kind of an AI Copilot baseline about what are some of the standard defaults, what are the things that you got to tweak, what are the things that you may have to add, what are the things you got to monitor a little bit more. So we'll come in and baseline that and work with customers to give them recommendations, and or we would do it or they would do it depending on what the situation is. And we establish that and we work with them. If we're doing it, then it's up to us to keep eye on those type of events and those type of logs. If it's up to customers, sometimes they'll do it themselves, and then we'll do, quarterly, monthly, weekly check-ins with them to see how things are going too. So, people are trying to deal with it, and people know that, there's risk out there. They may not get it to everybody in their company, and they're trying to get their like hands around it. But I just got off the call with a customer right before this one about Entra, and like, hey, and he wants to go all into Microsoft, which is cool. Okay, good. Then we got to go all into Microsoft. There's things on like the security for Copilot, costing, the framework for it. There's this thing called SCU, SKUs, on how many, agents or signals is what they refer to can be processed and how much that costs. So there's like this whole world that you got to get in the middle of if you're on some of these, but it's there. And Microsoft, by the way, is doing a better job too on just helping you, even if you don't even know it. So we had a case the other day where a customer had somebody that did get into somebody's email account, and Microsoft Identity stopped them within about 20 minutes. And the guy said, well, how did that happen? Well, Microsoft is actually trying to help out people by putting in some of those security requirements by default versus you got to go figure it on and you got to turn them all on. So, they are doing that on email too. They're doing it on identity, and they'll probably just continue to improve that and, continue to tell people what it means and, give people to, and, just improve it themselves too. So good stuff. But you got to be into it. If somebody's here sort of, this is probably what Quest's secret sauce is we're in there. We're an IT company. We're not just part of we're not an IT shop, working with some other industry. No, we're into IT. So as a trusted partner, for lack of better terms here, connect up with somebody that's into it. And then just use them if it's on a ongoing 24-hour day type of thing. If it's a consulting thing, get some help from people that are into it.
Great. Also, I keep noticing our attendance is going up, which is great. I also realize those people are probably coming in late, and I just want you to know that if you have questions, feel free to let us know in the chat, and Adam and Mike can get those answered. So if you have any questions, let us know in the chat, and we'll get those answered. So mention of Entra, our fifth question, and I think you kind of touched on this, but this might kind of bring up some different stuff as well. The fifth question is, are Microsoft Entra ID default settings around user app registration and consent still enabled in our tenant? And if so, how much shadow IT and enterprise application sprawl?
Yes, and a lot.
Okay.
So, so there are a lot of default settings, right? But it's also how they're set up besides just a default setting, but how the application is deployed, who's deploying it out. We get a lot of people that still, they deploy applications. Do they really have a framework to say, what's a service account? Who's actually installing it? Is it, Mike Dillon, or is it an admin of some sort, or what is it? So we just have some of those things. There are just still some blocking, tackling that need to be improved. And then as far as, again, when it's set up, a lot of, you definitely want to read into what you're deploying. You want to take some time and just read in what the default settings are, understand them again, to see if they're making sense to you on what's going to be enabled when you install it. And again, a lot of times I see a lot of people, you don't have to be IT to do this, which is a challenge. Does that help you answer the question,
Gotcha.
Paul?
Yeah, that's great. And we actually just got one more question in as well. Adam, I'm sorry, real quick. Did you have anything
Yeah,
to add?
just
or
Mike,
kinda-
Mike, can you clarify that a little bit when you said you don't have to be IT to do that? You don't have to be IT to make those changes, or can you help
Oh,
me understand?
you don't have to be IT to deploy the tool, the applications. A lot of people have their environment set up so a user could deploy their own applications and do their own setup and those things too. So that's what I was referring to. So, and
Gotcha.
a lot of people want to say, hey, again, how do you control the corporate asset? Or if it's a BYOD thing, right? If it's a corporate asset, are you letting people load whatever they want to load on it? Or, go out and buy whatever SaaS application it is, whatever those things are, that's important to delineate this a corporate asset and how's that managed. And then if it's a BYOD thing, how are you mitigating your risk with the BYOD user, as they are probably out loading up stuff too. Again, the threat here is I'm opening up gates that you don't know about. I could be opening up maybe tools that aren't maybe the safest. We had one the other day where a health industry wanted us to help them. We do a lot of their patching, a lot of their endpoint protection and keeping things up to date. And including part of that is loading up their Intune and what's on their Intune. And we have a process if we're managing Intune, what's being loaded, and we do a little bit of a second check on who is this company. And it's a company that was out of China. So loading up an agent out of China on a HIPAA compliant world seemed kind of weird. So we raised our hands before we deployed it. We talked to them about it. And in that particular case, we are still working with them. We did not deploy it. But if there wasn't somebody doing that check, that probably would have been deployed. And here's your problem that gets generated. Some HIPAA application is being set up and put on your desktops, and it's out of China, and that probably bends people a couple different ways on if that's needed and why are we doing that. But we see that a lot. We see that too on critical infrastructure. A lot of stuff is made out of China. A lot of endpoint devices, manufactured devices, industrial, specific to wind and air, power. Some medical devices are made out of China, and people are going to go to China to do some sort of a firmware update. And that's maybe not the best policy. I mean, how do you deal with that?
I see. Gentlemen, question from our audience. Appreciate it. Thanks for giving us a question. How do you advise balancing rapid adoption of new tools and technologies with maintaining strong cybersecurity hygiene, especially when human error and insider threats remain top concerns?
Read the book, Art of War.
Are you getting a
There's a lot of
kickback? Are you
challenges
getting a
there.
percentage of sales?
No,
I feel
no,
like
I'm not.
you're-
I'm not. It's an old book too. It's an old book, but it's sort of like basic. I got a couple of these things in my brain that just kind of sticks there. One, like never attack somebody if you're lower than them. So that's always important, which may apply here.
Interesting.
So think about how you're going to deal with that, because you probably are out there, maybe carrying the corporate cybersecurity flag, and you're dealing with the VP of sales. Not that Adam would ever do that. So you may be doing something like that, but you gotta bring it. Don't hold it in. So I would tell you, have a good email once in a while to your leadership or your board, whatever it is, talking about your security assessment. People bring us in to help them consult on that. I know it could be frustrating. It's like, well, they're going to tell me the same thing I told you. I know, but it's been around for years. Somehow the mind says, that's good. We brought in that consultant, and the IT guy goes, yeah, I've been telling them this the whole time for 10 years. But it works. So it may work, may, bring in a different perspective. So I would take it for what's important. I would understand really, like on the example I used on the health. I know on the health plant that wants to load it, I know it's important, but there's a check process here that we have to have in place because they need to be HIPAA compliant, and it's understood in that company that HIPAA means something. It's just not going to be blown over. So hey, before we put something out there that could extract patient information, we need to look at this. So I think over time people have probably realized that if they can manage it at the speed, definitely a lot of speed. We do a lot of work with people in growth mode or M&A mode. I see it too, growth and M&A mode. But if you get a good standard going, we took one company from, a handful of users to, 4,000 users over about 5 years. And we stuck with a framework, and it meant something to the CEO, to the board. And we had a report to the board, and ultimately they were picked up by a PE partner. The PE partner also had some security requirements that we had to be accountable for. So it wasn't just, Mike Dillon, working on the security team thinking this is a good idea or something. No, this is a governance across, the executive committee about what we're all accountable for. And so if you've got information that needs to be protected, if you got a risk of a business, pretty sure somebody there cares. Now, timing of it may be a challenge and how it's implemented in the framework and to keep up with it, but I'm sure people care. People probably don't want to get hit by ransomware, but I know people move fast. They'll blow through some of these things, and you're probably trying to keep up with them. But have some framework. There's a lot of things that IT can do besides just complain and throw their hands up in the air, which I kind of get the thought of, control what you can't control. If you can't control everything, then get some good visibility, get some good data, kind of look a little bit more of what's going on versus think you're going to stop the train, kind of get an understanding of, where's the train going, where's it been, what do I have to worry about, what do I have, what can I see? So what can I control if I'm in that mode? I see a lot of people are probably more complaining, putting their hands up in the air, saying there's nothing I could do about it versus digging in and dealing with what you could deal with. And it's good information because sooner or later, something's going to happen. And you're going to be Johnny on the spot with data that could show what's been going on. So that's cool.
Great. Appreciate that. I think they said that in the Art of War
Yeah.
too. Always check the train schedule. So
Yeah.
yeah. Great. We covered all the questions. I know we've been going for about a half an hour, and I know you guys have some other stuff you'd like to talk about. So I'm going to step back. Again, if you have questions, let us know in the chat, and I can definitely let them know.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah. Go ahead, Adam. Do you want me to?
No, go for it,
Maybe
Mike.
that's
You're
what you
good.
wanna
Yeah, I think some folks would want to know I know we kind of jumped ahead to it with the BIMI thought, but what it is, how it helps the brand, and then also how it helps your end users, dealing with, those kind of threats. But
Things.
yeah.
Yeah. If you go to the next slide there, Justin, thank you. So here a little bit, So it is a big deal on reputation, right? So, and it's a big deal verifying who you're getting emails from. So branding, which is branding indicator here, and message identification. So there's your BIMI thought. It is a big deal for confidence for you. You may not feel it. You probably feel it after you've been attacked, unfortunately. But as far as your company goes, protecting your brand, protecting where your emails go to and come from is a big deal today because email still is used a lot. From even your employee confidence, like if it's a 401k issue or a deferred or how you get paid, direct deposit type of issue. If it's working with your suppliers, how they communicate, with your customers, how they can communicate. So the idea of having the BIMI thought here with email is a big deal. I suggest people really understand who they're doing business with, what their perspective of things like cybersecurity and email security is, because that does help on one of the questions. How do I work through this with my company? What may be a big requirement from some of your customers or some of your supply chain vendors. Somebody around you has probably been compromised on a business email compromise somehow, and it got worse, maybe even turned into ransomware or some sort of a fraud event. So somebody is probably dealing with this. So what I suggest people kind of do is look around a little bit. You're probably not the only one. You just have to reach out to some of your customers or your vendors or your suppliers and just see what they're doing. And I would stick to the thought here of what Beame says here at first. This is your brand. Do people trust your emails? Do people trust your people communicating with them on email? Do people trust when all of a sudden, I mean, it's a business impact. All of a sudden, some of these email accounts gets hit, and all of a sudden a blast comes out of their email to all of their, people on their contact list, which is probably your vendors and your customers too. And there's this email coming from your company, and it looks like a phishing email. They click on it thinking it's you, and you just been compromised, and you just made them get compromised. So email is a big deal. Email is a big security threat. It's really a lot around branding, your reputation, how much credibility do you have when somebody sends you an email? And then, stepping up, talking to them and see what their rules are. You probably have people that are probably right there by you trying to deal with the same thing. And our advice is reach out to them. We can help you obviously reach out to them, put together a little bit of like initiative to go out to those major suppliers and customers and just see what they're doing. And I'll bet you they're probably dealing with some of this stuff here too. And then roll into something, getting, like I mentioned earlier, getting Beame all the way across the finish line. Get in your idea of how you're going to manage your end devices and your application setup and your user, rules. So it's a big deal. So, and this has been a huge deal. I know, even going through some of the things we had with like Instagram and some of those folks that were compromised, and a lot of accounts were compromised. So, threat actors are tricky. I would tell you, you're not going to do this on your own. You're going to need a village. Find out who's in your village, and hopefully it's probably customers, vendors, partners like us, and figure out how the village is going to handle this, not just you on your own. If you're doing it on your own, good luck. You're not going to make it. I'll just be blunt. You're going to get whacked at some point in time. So reach out, figure out who's on your team or in your village helping you get through this stuff, and then work from there. Nick, I know I think we're getting close. We have to. Are we past the time, Adam?
No, I think we're kind of coming right up on the close. So yeah, I appreciate you walking through that.
Sorry about that.
That scenario there, Mike. No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah. Definitely. Again, it's not the first time that's been out there, but we've helped out a lot of people too with their browser extensions. That really does help. A lot of people ask, hey, how do I control, people from downloading some of the AI tools or loading some of the AI tools or going to their websites? That browser extension process does help you mitigate some of that risk. So those have been some pretty good, things along the way that we've had to work with people. And it takes some time, right? We just don't go in there one day, turn it all off and say good luck. We go through there, look and see what people are running, start doing some testing, start with some obvious implementation, then maybe some more of the difficult stuff later. But we kind of work through people there about how they're managing that.
We also have a question. Has Quest sent out info on setting up BIMI?
We had the email we sent out yesterday on our security advisor. So if somebody needs a copy of that, we could get you a copy of that, and that kind of explains it a little bit more. So let us know, whoever that is, Paul, and we can send them an email. They may not be on our security advisor messages, so We do send those out. We probably, depending on what's happening, they are real threats. We'll send out if something is hot, like a patch or some sort of attack just came through, and/or like on Beamy, something that's been around the block a couple times, but it's catching some wind again here as people are just dealing with the email threats.
Great. Hey, George, thank you for the question. We'll make sure to get that email out to you. And quickly before we wrap it up, well, guys, any final thoughts?
I'm good. I think thanks for everyone joining. I think just going through, there was a lot here today, from AI to email security to how do you manage, end devices and applications. So there's a lot, but we are getting a lot of work for our request and work in management with customers on Intune. So even if you've got Google workstations, iPads, iPhones coming through the Apple Business Manager, working through Intune, I mean, you got to have a strategy here of some sort of a tool with a strategy to help you get through this stuff. So, so we've been going through a lot of that with customers. We hear people, the vendors right now are all into, more of the bundle thought. If you didn't go to Ignite, Microsoft or following any of them, they kind of are pushing a lot of people to E5, but there's 12 different, 50 different flavors on how you could do and use their tools, but E5 is a big deal. But getting to them, using Defender, maybe with your existing tools and/or replacing them. So we're getting a lot of people worried about that. But those are things that people are kind of just working on. And Intune's a great configuration management tool. You've got to get another thing too that you got to be all into, or it's just going to probably collapse when you build it about 70%. Or just people are going to think it's a 4-letter word within your company. So Intune's a big deal. It seemed to help out a lot by helping us with configuration management, MDM type of things. So that's been good. That's a positive thing, by the way. That has not always been that consistent, and having those tools has probably been a challenge. But a lot of people are, using it.
We covered a lot today. So if you want to review this forum, previous forums, just go to our partner portal. If you go to questsys.com, you can find our partner portal, access this, all the other forums, all the other great content. Guys, thanks for joining us today, answering some questions.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Justin. Thanks, everybody. Thanks a lot, Darcy.
Thanks. Everyone have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye.